Doherty.
And can I first begin by thanking all of the speakers who supported this legislation. It was refreshing and great to see the combined opposition come out and support this piece of legislation. I will say to the Minister, to both Ministers, and particularly to Minister Donoghue, that was one of the most shameful speeches I've heard in all my time in the Dáil, and I think that speech will come back to haunt you. It was full of nonsense, to tell you the God's honest truth, in the face of genocide. It argued stuff that was inconsistent. For example, Article 215, you say, of the EU Treaty precludes individual member states from issuing their own restrictive measures. It doesn't say that. Do you want me to read Article 215 of the European Treaty for you? It doesn't say that. It's simply not true. We had another minister talk about that Israel could issue green bonds as if, they're planting trees or something in Gaza, or water courses. They're bombing children. Children are being burnt alive. And you're talking about green bombs. They're promoting these as war bonds. They are asking people to join the war effort, the genocide. And what this legislation does is it prevents our central bank from approving the perspectives. And when they approve the perspectives, it means that they can passport into other European countries. And that's how the effect of this legislation would have an effect in other European countries. It would be up to Israel to go and apply for another home country if they wanted to do that. And then that member state would have to say, do we want to stand up or do we count it? But you've made a decision today. Weasel words and no action, and it is not acceptable. This legislation wasn't drafted by me, Pascal, so see every time that you try to throw insults around that it's badly drafted, not constitutionally, it's the staff of the Oireachtas who drafted this legislation. It is the Office of the Parliamentary Legal Advisers who drafted the legislation. We got a legal opinion from them which said that this legislation was constitutionally compliant with EU law and according to international law. Now, I did note in your speech that you didn't actually say that it wasn't compliant, that it wasn't compliant with the Constitution, that it wasn't compliant with EU law or indeed with international law. You talked about, your speech actually says, it is thought that such measures would be judged. When you actually got up and said it, you said it's advised. You talked also about, that doesn't materially impact. Basically, no clear legal advice that this is not compatible. We have the legal advice. It comes from the houses of the Oireachtas. The legal advice is also consistent with the leaked advice of the Attorney-General, because a public policy exemption exists in EU law, and you know that fine well. He's argued the same thing in relation to Occupied Territories Bill 7 bloody years ago. He's used the exact same arguments. Extraterritorial, they used it 7 years ago. Unconstitutional, they try to use that one as well. There is a public policy exemption. The Central Bank, in a letter to myself and the Finance Committee, made it very clear the only way that they can refuse the approval of the perspectives is three measures. Either the perspectives disclosures are insufficient, that's one. The other is EU financial sanctions, or the last one, national restrictive measures to the same effect. Why would the Central Bank of Ireland be suggesting national restrictive measures if it wasn't compatible with EU law? Because it is compatible with EU law. How do we know? There's case law in Europe in relation to this here. It is very clear in relation to the treaties. One of the fundamental freedoms in relation to the European Union, of the four fundamental freedoms, is the freedom of capital. But Section 65(1)(b) of the Treaty of the Functioning of the European Union replaces strict restrictions on that, where it says that that can be restricted on the basis of policy grounds. And there is examples of what that would mean. So this here, and I conclude on this here, and I hope you're glad in relation to dissecting the counter-argument from government, but this isn't about a to and fro here. Usually this would go to committee. Usually these issues would be teased out. This government is making sure that it never even gets another look. And why are you doing that? Because I believe, Pascal, that you're doing that to be the best boy in the class in terms of Europe. I said this earlier on. Tonight is the night that we stand up on behalf of all of our constituents, all of the people across Ireland who want to see us do everything in our power in the face of genocide. Tonight is the night we say no more money is going to be raised in this country through the sale of war bonds. Tonight is the night that every single person will be asked to vote. to vote for either supporting the funding of genocide, which is what is happening by the sale of these war bonds, or stand with your constituents, stand with the people of Gaza, stand on the right side of history and support this legislation.
Thank you, Deputy. That now